Hello everybody, this is VG Time back again with another deck profile. Had my pre-release over the weekend and I was able to acquire a few cards. Didn't really go too heavy on this one as I did with set 10, but I will be acquiring cards over the next few weeks to be able to make some more deck profiles for you guys. So anyway, I was very excited about this because I was really looking forward to the Xeno Goku leader. This is the first draft for the deck right now. Haven't really had a lot of time to experiment with a lot of new cards, so I just kept it very basic. And as I continue to test with the deck, I'll make sure I update it on the Instagram, so make sure you follow me there so that you'll be able to see like subtle changes that I make to the decks and so forth. So let's just get into it. As you can see, it's fully laid out, so if that's all you care about, you could just jot down everything, but I'm just going to give you a quick card by card and why they're there. So the leader, if you don't know what it does all the great things that I want my black leaders to do. So it swings and it bursts threes to draw a card, but you also have the option of taking a life during that process. So it's similar to the way Gotenks is and Broly and whatnot. What's really cool is that you don't have to take a life to draw the card. You could just swing, burst 3, draw a card. So in aggressive matchups, you're able to preserve your life total. When he gets a 4 or less life, he awakens and flips over. On the backside, he becomes SS4 Son Goku, Guardian of History. He has double strike at all times, and a permanent that during your turn, for every 8 black cards in your warp, he gets plus 5k. He's hardly ever going to be over 20, so just make sure you just manage it so you could, on your attacks, at least have the 8 cards in your warp. Then he has an activate main where you could take and put up to 4 black battle cards from your warp into your drop area to draw a card. You're not required to put any cards back, so you could just draw a card if you really wanted to. But he helps facilitate a whole bunch of things like overrun what you see in his deck. So let's get the boring stuff out the way right away. The free stuff. You are playing a black Saiyan leader, so you will be playing the free stuff. Each of these guys, being the Gotenks, Kai, Trunks, and Vegeta, they all come out for free if your leader is a black Saiyan and they're sent from the deck to the drop area. And the bursting is just going to make that become a reality. Now we get to Vegeta Time Regulator, and we do a lot of overrun with this deck, so you want to benefit from it. Vegeta Time Regulator is an extremely powerful card. It has been reprinted in the anniversary box, so if you're not all about rarity and whatnot, you could get those reprints for like $1. So it should not be a budget restraint as far as, or budget constraint as far as being able to play that card. When you do overrun with him, when you do overrun while he's on the table, you get to put up to 2 cards, black battle cards from your warp to the bottom of your deck, and if you put at least 1, you draw a card. And the cards that you are limited to are 7 costs or less, which is most of the cards, I think all the cards in this deck. Vegeta, this one right here might be a little more pricier than it was when I had picked them up. When I picked them up, they were like $. But that was also a long time ago when everybody thought this card was trash. Don't know how that was ever the case, but basically, overrun them, then you get to put up to 3 more cards from the top of your deck into the drop area when you overrun them. That's important because it helps trigger the free stuff. As well as being a critical attacker, which makes him very strong. Trunks Time Regulator, arguably the best card in the deck. You overwhelm him, you get to draw 2, then warp 1 from your hand. He's very important because he interacts really well with Vegeta Time Regulator, which obviously was intentional. That's why they're both named Time Regulator. So you can overwhelm him, have those 2 autos trigger, put back 2, draw 1 with Time Regulator, then draw 2, then warp 1. So you basically drew 3, warped 1, and that's such deep dig that it's very hard to beat that. Also, he has interaction with the super combo, which I'll get to in a second. So again, great card. Toa, Dark Imperial Scientist. This is probably the most expensive card in the deck, and the one that could be swapped out the easiest. Not in love with it, but it's there because of utility. Basically, there are times where you burst 3 because you want to overwhelm something, but you hit something that could come out for free. You don't really want to lose the value by not having it come out for free just so you can overwhelm. So you need an overwhelm 2 versus an overwhelm 3, and that's where this comes into play. She also has the ability to pump a black battle card by 5k. That doesn't really come up that much. We don't really care about that. And then she has the ability to cycle a dead card from your hand for 1 from the top of the deck when she comes into play. That is actually important. So I do like that ability. Next up, Secret Identity Mad Saiyan. You should know by now that's basically a staple. You just overwhelm it. You could deal with tokens. You could deal with little weenie battle cards. You could deal with basically anything up to a cost of 6. So that's pretty great. One thing it can deal with though is cards with barrier, and that's why this new Vegeta is so important. That Vegeta is the cheapest way that Black has to deal with a card with barrier, and is a welcome addition to this deck. For 2 black and an overwhelm of 6, you get to play this 25k beater and have it warp one of your opponent's battle cards ignoring barrier. So we have an oldie but goodie super combo and Supreme Kai Time, the World's Protector. With the Bibbidi hit, it's safe to experiment with other super combos again. You could of course run Roshi, because Roshi is always 10k. Your leader has the ability to get yourself to 4 relatively quickly. That's a very valid super combo. As well as new Vegeta super combo where you can put a card from your hand to the bottom of the deck and draw 2. I just think that super combo against like certain decks like hand control can become really, really bad. If it's the only card in your hand, you just need to try to dig and cycle through. This card right here is my choice because it comes aligned turn 1, assuming that you're able to attack like you're going second, because you get the burst to 3 with the leader on attack. If you have 3 cards, like just 3 regular cards, you could time Regulator, draw 2 warp 1, so that's 4 in a warp, and then at the end of the turn the time Regulator goes to the warp, so that you have 5 in a warp and your super combos online turn 1. I just think that is super powerful, and the reason why that I'm choosing her over the other options. 2 copies of Hatchiac. This guy has double duty in his deck. Unlike a leader like Black Mad Saiyan or a leader like Vegeta, our leader does not continue to burst on the backside, and that's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but he just doesn't continue to do so. So you use him to help get a couple extra cards into the drop area if need be. He also interacts extremely well with the leader as far as recycling engine. And what I mean by that is, if he's in your warp, or even if he's not in your warp, but if he's in your warp, you could send him plus 3 other cards that have a cost between 3 to 7 from your warp back into your drop area, to then put those 3 cards back on the bottom of the deck to play this guy out to drop for 3. And then your opponent is going to try to get rid of him, so let them. And when they get rid of him, you just do the same thing over again, and that guarantees that you don't really deck out. He is a threatening presence because he can attack a battle card and then restand. So that means he has pseudo dual attack. So I just like him all overall. Son Goku making an entrance is a negate. Power Burst, a negate. And of course it brings back Goku as well as the Kai as his targets. Majin Buu Human Extinction Attack. Again, serves the same purpose as Hatchiac. It allows you to be able to continue to mill if need be on your backside. It also has the added benefit of being a 15k combo, which is strong with your leader's built-in double strike. and the ability to disrupt your opponent drop area, which is pretty important in this format. And then lastly, we played 2 copies of Super Kamehameha. This card was a card that's been on my radar for a very long time, but most of the Black Saiyan leaders it was pretty useless with because your opponent got to control your awakening and not you. And even with Vegex where you could control your awakening, you had to be brought down to a low life total in order to use Super Kamehameha, and you were usually doing that to your opponent. So this guy, he can bring himself to 4, he puts this card online, and when it's later in the game and you're trying to kill your opponent, they can't really safely topple you, or if you're going against Baby, they can't safely use most of their counter plays because this guy hits anything 3 or less, or counter attacks even, for that matter. So again, first rough draft. As I get more cards in the coming weeks, I will be representing this deck with the updated cards, with more updated cards if need be, and possibly even get some gameplay video out there for you.